Friends, we are back with day 23 of the Everybody Counts Challenge. And today we are doing what, Makayla?
We're canning cherries.
Canning cherries. We have time for one more fair project. And this is our very last canning fair project because what do we have to do this afternoon?
We have to go enter them.
We have to go take all of our entries to the fair. And Makayla's 4-H fair canning is going to be cherries. At least this one. She's got a few others over there that we've already done. But we are gonna just do a simple, basic cherries in syrup. And we have this big tub of cherries, and the first thing we need to do to can cherries, because we don't want to have to do this after we can them. We want them ready to use straight out of the can. So what do we have to do, Makayla?
We have to pit them.
We have to pit them. Now this is a little bit of a tedious process. It's not hard, but it's a little tedious. But we're gonna pull the stems off. We are gonna use, we don't have a pitter. We may get a pitter. If we do this more often, we'll get a pitter. But you can use a pitter and you can just stick the cherries through here, or stick the pits through the cherries. But we're gonna use these chopsticks and kind of try the same thing. They're not as sharp, but they do push the pits through.
Perfect cherry.
Boop. And we're gonna put the pits here in this thing, and we're gonna put the cherries right there.
Mine looks better.
So let's get pitting. You ready?
Yes.
Let's do it. Okay, we've got, I don't know, looks like about 8 cups or so of pitted cherries. It was a lot. It's like, what, 45 minutes to an hour later? It took us a while to pit those cherries, but it's gonna be worth it, right? Yes. Okay. What is the next step, sweetie?
We're gonna make the syrup, so we need 5 1/4 cups of water and 2 1/4 cups of sugar. We're gonna put this on the stove. I'm gonna bring this to a boil on medium-high heat on the stove and stir it until the sugar is dissolved.
All right, we will see you back here once the syrup is done. Okay, so we are back. Makayla boiled this
Syrup.
syrup, that's the word, and it's all ready to go. Now, the first step, what's the first step, Makayla?
We need to add a little bit of this into each jar.
Yes, we're gonna add a little bit to each jar. Now, I will say that we heated these jars before we're doing this because you don't wanna put warm or hot material into a cold jar because it could crack. So you wanna make sure everything's the same, and the same with our water in our canner. It is warm, so we're not going to be putting these hot jars into cold water. And I've kind of estimated that this will be about 2 quarts and a pint worth, which is not a problem to can together, especially since they can for the same amount of time for this recipe. Okay, so we want to make sure when we put the cherries on top of this little bit of liquid, how much headspace do we need?
1/2 inch.
1/2 inch. What is headspace, Makayla?
The space you leave between whatever you're putting in and the top.
Yeah, so just the distance between the space and the top. 1/2 inch usually is right at this lip, isn't it? We have this nifty little measurer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, that 1/2 inch is pretty much a little higher than that, but you can see where the edge of that is. And we have some extra jars ready to go just in case it takes a few more. And this is super easy. We're just gonna fill the jars, and then we're gonna put some more syrup in them once they're filled with cherries. And you want to shake this down in. With cherries, it's kind of tricky. You don't want to mash the cherries down or use one of the pokers. So you just kind of can shake it and they settle. Now we can put just a few more in there. Canning funnel, not necessary, but it's definitely cleaner work when you have a canning funnel. And sometimes when you have the funnel, it makes a mess still. That is about perfect, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Oh, Mommy is a good guesstimator. Just for you, if you're guesstimating at home based on how many, that was about 8 cups of cherries. And a whole quart is 4 cups solid from floor to top. And you know, because we're doing headspace, quite a bit of headspace here, we don't fill them all the way to the top. And then a pint is 2 cups all the way to the top. So I just kind of estimated that 8 cups would fill two quarts and a pint. And that pretty much is what it did. So now what do we do, Makayla?
We're gonna add more syrup.
Yep, we're gonna add syrup to the top, still leaving that headspace. Now remember what I talked about. We don't want to smash down on these cherries because they will get just turned to mush. So we're gonna shake to remove the bubbles where we would normally push something down in. That's right at the right. Okay, shake it a little bit and we'll put this off to the side. All right, now we're gonna give them a little bit more shake. Shake, shake, shake. Shake, shake, shake. Before we put the lids on, we wanna clean these, wipe them down. Very specifically, we wanna wipe down right where the lid comes in contact with the jar and make sure nothing is gonna interfere with that seal. If you're doing something fatty, these aren't necessarily fatty, but if you're doing something fatty that you're concerned about the fat getting on the seal, you can use vinegar to wipe them down, but that's not necessary with these.
We're gonna put the lid on and we're gonna screw it finger tight and a quarter turn more.
Yeah, you don't wanna just wrench down on the jar lids because if you do, what can happen?
I don't know.
Well, it's a good teaching opportunity. If you wrench down in the jars, sometimes it can pull up the edges a little bit and it gives it, it doesn't seal as easily. So occasionally if you seal it too tight, this is kind of counterintuitive, but if you seal that jar too tight, it doesn't have a chance to make that seal on its own. So we don't want to wrench down. Well, just finger tight like Makayla said, and just a quarter of a turn more. Now we already have some warm water in this canner, okay? And I put vinegar in my water. That's what you were sniffing, huh? It doesn't smell like just water. The reason I put vinegar in my water, y'all, this lady, I don't even remember what her name was. If you're still watching, thank you so much for this tip. Last year, I had a lady tell me when I pulled stuff out of the canner and it was all just calcified, it just had this white powdery residue all over it because our water is super hard. It's got lots of calcium and things in it. And so she said if you just add a little dash of vinegar to your canning water, when you pull them out, your jars will be pristine, and it works every time. So there is your helpful hint, and I am so thankful to whoever told me that in the comments last year. I've used it every single time and it works like a dream. So we do have that. We have some warm water. We're gonna put these warm jars in there. You are right, we do need the tray. Good call, MJ, because we don't want these sitting on the bottom right next to the heat source. So there's our canning tray, right in there. Now we can put them on top of the canning tray. Yeah.
We're gonna need some more water.
Yeah, we will. We'll cover them with warm water. Yeah, got it. There.
I didn't know how hot it was.
We want. So now what we want to do is we want to cover the jars with about 1 inch of water so that they're submerged completely. With water bath canning, you're going to submerge them completely. Once we do that and submerge the jars completely, we're going to take them over to the stove. And this recipe calls for 25 minutes of processing time. Now how you measure that is you set the stove to boil, and you're gonna let this boil. Put the lid on, let it boil. Once it comes to a boil, then Makayla's gonna set the timer for how long?
25 minutes.
25 minutes, yes. And once that timer is done, we're gonna turn it off. We're gonna remove the lid and let it set for 10 or 15 minutes before we pull the jars out. Sometimes if you pull the jars out really quickly and they get into the cooler air, they can do what's called siphoning and the material inside can siphon out. So we don't want that to happen. So if you let it sit for about 15 minutes or so, that just reduces the risk of that siphoning happen. So we will get that started and we will see you back here at the end of our 25 minutes and we will have delicious canned cherries.
Turkey.
All right, it's been 25 minutes boiling and then we waited our 15 and these are ready to come out. Are you excited, MJ? Yes. All right, pull them out. Now we gotta be really careful because this water is still pretty hot. And I like to put a towel down on my granite just in case the granite is too cool for these jars. It just helps insulate them a little bit. I don't ever want the jar to break.
These look good.
Oh, they look beautiful, Makayla. I love them.
Don't want them.
And if you can tell, there is no white residue because we put that vinegar in. And there it is, another project in our Every Bit Counts challenge and our last 4-H entry, right?
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. We can't wait to see how we do. We'll let you know if she wins a blue ribbon. How can she not win a blue ribbon for this, right? I don't know. Makayla, what are you most excited about? We have done tons and tons and tons of fair stuff. What is one or two things that you're way excited about entering in the fair this weekend?
I have one right over here that I'm really excited about. So in our garden last year, we grew these gourds called birdhouse gourds that you paint and then you drill a hole in and empty out. And I painted a little birdhouse gourd with my bunnies on it. And a rainbow.
Oh, that is so cute.
And I'm excited about that. And then I'm also really excited about entering my bunnies. And there's a painting I did of one of my bunnies that I don't know where it is.
That's okay. We have all of our fair stuff packed up, ready to walk out the door because in about, I don't know, an hour, we've got to go head that way and take them all.
Hour?
Yeah. We're cutting it close with these. But I think we had total like 85 entries for our whole family. So it's going to be, it's always a lot to bring them all and get them sorted, but it is so much fun. We always look forward to the fair. Anyway, back to canning, because that's why y'all are here, right? We have more canning videos. We have about a little over another week for the Every Bit Counts challenge. And we're rounding that corner. We're coming to the end of it. It has been a long month and it's always a really busy month, but we are getting it done. And at the end of this month, we will pull out absolutely everything that we've canned and processed and preserved, and we will show it all to you. And so you can see how much even just a teeny tiny little bit every day really does make a huge difference when you're stocking your pantry. And as always, we're so thankful that you're joining us here and supporting our little family. And we hope you have a fantastic day.